So cattle play an important role in the Finnish food chain and bioeconomy, and it's a very the chain has very many dimensions. It starts from the soil, from the feed, from the grass-based diets that the cattle can utilize that provide ecosystem services. And then, of course, then we need to manage the cultivation and preservation of the feed and create balanced rations for the cows that can transform the feed into milk and meat. And again, many aspects there to take care of the genetics of the cows, the rumen microbiome and digestion, metabolism, health and welfare. And then we end up with the products from the cows that produce very high quality nutrition for us humans. And they need to be produced efficiently with high quality and safety and provide added value. And here then on the right-hand side, I also brought up that although this project is about dairy, so it's very much interlinked with beef, particularly in Finland, where we don't have so many specialized beef herds, but most of the beef is actually produced directly linked with the dairy sector. So 21% of the beef comes from the dairy cows themselves, and then 60% from their calves that are raised for beef. And then only less than 20% of the meat of the beef comes from the specialized beef breed animals. So these two brands of production support each other very much. And the Finnish milk production is based on family farms, and the human resource is the most important factor in dairy production. This is also something that has come up frequently in our project. And needs to really be taken into consideration. And of course, it needs to be economic because the farmers need to live out of this business. Currently, we have about 5,000 dairy farms in Finland. They are rather small. The average herd size is 50 cows per farm, and but the investing dairy farms are bigger, so the smaller, older farms are coming out of business, and typically a new dairy farm in Finland would install 2 or more automatic milking systems, meaning at least 120 dairy cows. But of course, there are exceptions as well. The average milk production per cow is 9,000 kilos of milk per year. But there is currently a strong debate going on in Finland about the sustainability of animal production, and there are many kind of challenges that we face with this sector. So one of the big topics is the high carbon footprint of animal products, which causes climate change, and also the low nutrient use efficiency, which leads into leakage of nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus into the environment. Also the use of antibiotics, the increasing microbial resistance, also the risk of new pandemics. Now we have this bird flu going on in Europe, which is linked to also to livestock production. We have the questions of loss of biodiversity and soil carbon. Also, people are very much concerned about the welfare of the animals in the livestock production systems, and then the human health aspect. There's much emphasis on using more vegetables in the diets. So these type of things we need to face. And some of the things that, I mean, of course, it's a very, very problematic area with many things affecting into many different approaches, and it's not black and white by any means. And I try to bring up here now some aspects that highlight the importance of ruminants and dairy production. And I think it all starts from the soil, from the grass that we can use for cattle, and the perennial forage plant species, they absorb light efficiently, even during the early season when the annual fields are barren. And actually, more or less all field crops that are grown directly for human consumption, they are annual plants. So in this sense, the grass has big strengths. And also, if we use forage legumes, then we can quite nicely utilize the nitrogen fixing ability of the rhizobium bacteria in their root nodules. And then the large root systems of the perennial crops also use water and nutrients more efficiently, and also have the potential to increase the soil carbon stock. Now we are in the top of Europe, in the very north, and the climate and the soil, they really limit what kind of crops we can grow, and grass plays an important role under these circumstances. And the most common grass species we use are timothy and meadow fescue. And for example, ryegrass doesn't overwinter over here, so it's not used at all in Finland. Basically, it can be used in some cases as an annual forage plant. And then from the forage legumes, also the what we can choose from is quite limited. So red clover is by far the most common, and then we also have some white clover and to a very small extent some other species. Very little of lucerne also in Finland, partly due to soil characteristics and also the winter conditions. Here you can see in the pie chart the different crops that we grow in Finland, and grass covers 36% of the field area. And if you look at the different crops listed here, pay attention to that. There's no maize there. So maize also, the growing season is too short, and we have the frosts in the beginning and in the end of the growing season. So it's not very common. There are some maize, but it's too little to be included in the list of the most important crops. And even within Finland, we have quite different conditions in different parts of the country. So in the map, in the left down corner, you see where wheat is grown in Finland, and that concentrates into the southwest part of the country, while then grasses are grown more in the northern and middle parts of the country, where these annual feed crops are not so competitive due to the climate. And here is now some comparison to the other European countries. So even if I talked so much about the importance of grass under our conditions, we have very, very little permanent grasslands. So even the grass suffers from overwintering problems. So we need to renew the grasses regularly, and that's why we don't have permanent grasslands. So Finland is this red bar here in the very end of the list, and then when we move towards the other end, so then we have Ireland here in the other end with almost 80% of the field area as permanent grasslands. So quite different conditions in different parts of Europe. But okay, grass is really nice, but we can't eat it ourselves. So then we need the ruminants to convert the forages into milk and meat. Here you see Nordic red heifers. This is a very common breed in Finland, which is slightly smaller and I would say a little bit more robust than the Holstein. Gives a little bit less milk, but is indeed more robust. So how does a dairy cow diet then look like in Finland? So it's 55% grass, which is mostly in-silage. Only a couple of percent of the grass is actually utilized by the animals from the pasture. So year-round silage feeding is very common in Finland, even if cows may go out for part of the day. And then it's 17% cereal grains, oats and barley mainly. And both the forage and the cereal grains are typically produced on the farm. So up to 72% of the feeds are typically produced on the dairy farms. And then some 28% commercial concentrates and byproducts. And the main protein source for Finnish dairy cows is rapeseed meal, and that is included in this part. So there's no soybean meal used in Finland for cattle. There is a national decision within the industry that soybean-based feeds are not used for cattle in Finland. And here you can see some trends, how the diets of the dairy cows have developed over decades, starting from 1990. So silage is the lowest bar here. The proportion of silage has increased a lot and at the same time, the use of hay, which is the second block, the green block here, that has hay is okay. Grazing has decreased. That's the second one here, and hay also almost disappeared. So in a way, the way the grass is used has changed, so that silage dominates because of the benefits in the logistics and mechanization. And the concentrate proportion has slightly increased, but it's been pretty stable now. And if I should say what I think, I would think it's not increasing anymore. So maybe it will start to decrease again to really benefit from the ability of ruminants to use non-human edible feed resources. And I think that dairy sector also has a lot to offer for the nature. Like in the first slide, we just mentioned the negative effects of livestock production on the nature, but there are other aspects as well. And most of the endangered nature types in Finland are traditional pastures. They are not used that much anymore because of the intensification of the production. But even the intensive grasslands and pastures are better than monocultures of annual crops. And I think that on dairy farms, there may be some areas that could be used for the nature conservation as well, and old pastures could be used for heifers or dry cows, and some space could be given to the unsown species and insects and birds, and because of the effect of animals, the type of crops used and the manure and so on. So there are positive aspects of even modern dairy farms on the biodiversity. And in the long run, the biodiversity pays back with more resilient systems that, for example, can resist, let's say, pests and insect attacks and so on when we have a big buffer of different types of organisms in the nature. But we also can utilize the more innovative options to be more resilient and save the resources. So we can use novel byproducts and the rapid technology development and the new circular approaches. They provide new types of byproducts and there's new innovations in different branches in food sector, in bioenergy sector, and so on. So let's take use of those options as well. I have a little bit of showing some trends about the Finnish dairy sector. Here you can see the amount of cattle in Finland starting from 1920. So it's quite long-term view, and actually the number of animals has decreased quite a lot, and the biggest decline, it started in 1970s, and really both the dairy cows here, the orange part, and other cattle, which is the young stock, and the beef animals, they both have decreased a lot. And here you see this light blue band here. This is the suckler cows. So they actually only appeared in Finland in late 1970s, 1980s. And as actually it was a response to the declining number of dairy animals, because then there was a lack of beef, and then the beef animals were imported to Finland, and they have been growing since then. But total number of animals has really decreased, and this keeps going on, except for the suckler cows. The trend is continuing. But here is the same, well, this starts from 1960s. It's not quite as long, but anyway, if you look at the amount of milk produced in Finland, so the decline is much less. And the explanation is, of course, here that this is the amount of milk produced by an individual cow. So the increase has been actually quite phenomenal. So even in 1960, it was 3,000 liters per cow per year, and now it's 9,000. So it's a huge increase, and it is due to the improved genetics, feeding, and management of the cows. So the animals are highly efficient, which has, of course, many environmental benefits, but it also puts the animals under quite high stress, so they need to be well taken care of. Okay, so that was kind of the setting about the animal side, but then I have here a map showing a little bit the characteristics of Finland. And here in this map, you see with the darker the green color, the more forest there is in that area. And Finland is here, so it is actually the country in the EU that has the highest proportion of forest from the land area. 76% is forest in Finland, while in Ireland and Netherlands is just over 10%. So it's quite a big difference in the landscape. And even then, if we consider the amount of the field area, so we have quite low number of animals per field area. Here is, in this graph, is presented the livestock units per unit of utilizable agricultural area, and Finland is here, the red bar. So it's among the lowest ones, and then if we then go to the countries with the highest number, there is Denmark, Belgium, and the Netherlands with the highest animal density. So this has this very sparse population, and livestock numbers as well has some effects. And here in this map, for example, is the nitrogen deposition in Europe, and it coincides very well with the amount of livestock per area. So very high here in Central Europe, while then in Finland it's very low. And also one of the benefits, at least partly, is because of the sparse population, is that we have very healthy animals as well. There's not so much pressure, there's not so much diseases around because farms are quite isolated. And we also take the biosecurity quite seriously. So, for example, if you would come to a visit to Finland, then you wouldn't be allowed to visit the dairy farms because there are quite strict regulations about visitors. But here in this photo, it's demonstrated about the use of antibiotic medicines for livestock, and the amount of syringes is demonstrating the amount of medicine. So it's very low in Finland compared to other countries. And here is actually the official statistics of the sales of antimicrobial drugs in relation to the number of livestock units in European countries, and Finland is here in the second place. And then when we go towards more southern Europe, then the use of antibiotics is increasing. In Sweden, they have a high proportion of organic production, and you may know that there's quite strict rules about medication in organic production. So that at least partly explains the even lower level of medication in Sweden. Okay, so then there is anyway risks to livestock production, and this table is from one project where we looked at what are the resources that are most important or critically important for different types of livestock production that need to be in place to be able to continue the food production. And of course, then forage production is very important for ruminants, while they are not so dependent on the cereals as the monogastric farm animals. Also the same for the commercial feeds or the protein feeds, which show somehow the resilience of the cattle sector compared to the monogastrics. But then, of course, veterinary services are needed, and the animals need to be renewed, although it's not as hectic as in the monogastric sector. And then, of course, then we need to be able to serve the food sector. There needs to be the milk delivery chain and slaughterhouse activities in place to conduct the job they need to do. One of the things needed is, of course, a lot of feed is required to be able to produce the products. And the protein self-sufficiency has been an issue for a long time for Finland and for the whole whole Europe. And a lot of work has been done in this field, a lot of research, a lot of extension, but it seems to still be a problem. And here, this picture shows the situation for Finland about on the top of the vertical horizontal line, we see the amount of protein produced in Finland compared to the amount imported. There's no soybean production in Finland, so all of that, what we use is imported, but we also import a lot of rapeseed protein. And the trends here show the area of cultivation of the protein crops, and it's actually, there hasn't really been much progress here, so I think this is definitely one topic that still needs more attention. And for rapeseed, actually, the production has just declined. And the grain legumes, faba bean and pea, which are the most suitable for Finnish conditions, at a very low level, and the increase has really not been that impressive. And looking from the production point of view here, the faba bean protein on the bottom, then the pea in the middle, and then the rapeseed on the top, altogether around 40 million kilos per year in Finland, while we import 70 million kilos of soy and 110 million kilos of rapeseed. So from this point of view, this system is not very resilient. And I remember these years here in the around 2015, that we had a lot of faith in the faba bean. It was increasing quite a lot, but then it kind of leveled off, and there's been some difficult years when the faba bean harvesting hasn't been really successful. So that doesn't seem to be solving the problem. But pea has kind of picked up now recently. Let's hope that will continue, and even some small development with the rapeseed as well, which is a very good protein source for dairy cows. But anyway, seems to be challenging to get this protein self-sufficiency into a better status. But that was what I had in mind to share with you about the Finnish dairy sector. And is there some questions or comments at the moment? I'd be happy to discuss. Abelu, you have a question? Abele, are you there? Do you want to ask something? Maybe Jocelyn then? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Please, you beautiful pictures though. Most of all, I left the cows in the snow. I was wondering how we would react, but about the dairy sector in Finland, Rinne, how is it with the resilience towards the future? Also a little bit thinking about that here in the middle of Europe, each year we have nice weather these days. In Finland also the weather will improve, I guess. Is that benefiting the sectors? I would imagine that you will almost take over the task of the Netherlands in the future. Is that right?
I kind of my personal view is that we would really have a good chance in a way to keep producing milk, and we have good. It seems like well, The extreme weather events, of course, already have hit us, so we know that, of course, will not be beneficial for feed production in anywhere, not even up here. But I mean, we don't have too much. I mean, the growing season is short and cold, so if it gets longer and warmer, that will benefit us. And also, it seems like there will be not so much lack of water. We often have too much of it, which is good for grass production. So, I mean, not too much is not good for grass either. But anyway, we have a lot of moisture. The water resources are pretty good. So that gives us a good starting point somehow for the dairy production. But I'm really kind of worried about the general attitude within Finland, which is not really favoring animal production. And I'm afraid that the dairy farmers maybe lose their faith in this business because of the negative pressure from the society.
Could you say a few more words about it? Negative pressure? I mean, you show pictures which are very beautiful with the animals.
Mm. I think the biggest pressure comes. I mean, two main reasons is the climate change and the nutrient problems as well, and then the animal welfare. Yeah, of course. Well, I'm a dairy person, so I think actually these problems are they are under control, I would say, in dairy business. So I would hope it would be kind of supported, but yeah, at least I think I'm not sure. I have this feeling, but of course it's difficult to assess that this attitude may be harder in Finland than maybe in other European countries.
Interesting. You just wonder, eh? Yeah.
Jocelyn for the next question.
Yeah, thanks, Marketa, for this presentation. It was just a question, as you said, it was mainly family farms who are running such, you said, 5,000 dairy farms. And what about attractiveness of the dairy sectors? In fact, is it an issue? Do you find quite easily candidate to take back the business of dairy farms, or it's a challenge also in your country?
I think it's a challenge.
Okay.
Some of the bigger newer farms, there are examples where there are like let's say different families make a company together. That helps, of course, but those opportunities are not available for everybody. But yeah, I think it's a challenge, and that's
Okay.
one reason why some farms actually indeed go out of business, because they don't find somebody to continue.
Okay. And you have some specific action to communicate on, not only on the good things to continue to eat or drink some milk or some dairy product, but also to be part of the business. Do you have some specific activities to recruit new people? Or
there are, yeah. What should I say? I think this, of course, the negative attitude from the society, I think that's very, let's say, dangerous at that time, if you are thinking if you want to continue your family farm or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the extension services, they have this kind of projects to support the new farmers to take over.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Marketa.
Maria?
Yeah.
Hi, Markita. Thank you for your presentation. I have two questions. You mentioned that society or community make pressure on the dairy sector regarding the climate change, but I would expect that climate change can be in favor of your country because then the growth season is longer and then you can produce more forage, and perhaps in next 10 years you can also plant maize.
Yeah, but this is what we could think, but I don't think it's so common. But maybe of course, climate change is negative anyway, so that should be prevented as much as possible. But then the climate change also offers the chance to grow some directly human edible crops in Finland more than currently. So it can also be perceived in that way. But it's kind of funny, you do have cows in southern and central Europe as well, even though you could grow directly human edible crops there as well. You still have cows.
And other question is also related to the animal welfare. In our country, people from industry very often say, yeah, in Scandinavian countries, animal welfare is perfect. But you mentioned animal welfare, and as I know correctly, you have still tight in-housing system on the Finnish farmers. And my question is, what will happen with these farmers in future or in near future? They will disappear because more and more say that tight in-housing system will not be any more permit to use.
Yeah, there's no new tie stall barns built in Finland. The new ones are all loose house systems, but there are quite a few of them still in use. And also the short grazing period. I mean, the animals are inside for most of the year because the grazing season is so short. So of course, then there's not too much space even in the loose house systems. So that of course is one issue. And also then the mastitis numbers are quite high and so on. But anyway, my personal view is that the life of a dairy cow in a loose house barn I don't have a problem. I don't feel bad for the cows the way they are kept. So, but there's also a lot of discussion about the calves, about that the cows are taken away from their dams immediately after they are born. For example, this is one of the topics that is concerning people.
Marketa, I'm a bit perplexed because Finland has history of keeping reindeer. What's the English word? Hey, it's that's your history. That's old cattle keeping. You have a very big country, and now you talk about community distrust. How is it? Is that Helsinki or is it the countryside? How does that work in Finland?
Yeah, I don't. There's of course. I guess a lot of this comes also from that people are not connected to the farms anymore. There's there's like, for example, this movement of vegans not to eat any animal products is I think it's quite active and strong in Finland. There was actually we can file some kind of proposals to the government to make new laws. And yesterday there was an idea that, well, we have fur farms in Finland as well, and then this proposal was open to ban fur farming in Finland. And that requires 50,000 signatures, which is quite hard usually to get for any of these proposals. In Finland, we are only 5 million. And that fur farming idea got the required amount of signatures in one day. I mean, fur farming is different than dairy farming, but somehow it tells about the criticism against animal production. But I'm just interested, we should move on to Kaja's presentation, but I'm interested if you think you don't feel the pressure from the society in your countries against their production, or do you?
Well, in our country, there was a huge pressure, I believe. But then the very strange thing happened that there came an election, and one party came new, and that was the Farmers' Party, completely new, and they opposed that kind of atmosphere. And then, till everybody's surprise, they became the biggest. So we realized suddenly, the whole country, that atmosphere is probably created in some circles. And in our country, it's in the big cities in the West, which are usually in the government. So it is a huge shock in this country that things were differently than we expected in the last 5-6 years. And now everybody is a bit shocked. What's going on? This is not the general opinion of the country. There are many people think differently, but they never expressed that. And then about Finland, I really wonder how it's possible. Therefore, I asked, is it Helsinki? There are a lot of people there. And if you keep your mouth, nothing happens. Eh?
So last question for Valerie, and then we will really have to move on.
I just had one question about profitability. In your tables, the dairy cows seems to have almost 45% of concentrates in their diets. I was just wondering about the profitability of dairy farming with such a diet. 55% homegrown forages and 45% concentrate, including part of homemade concentrate, but it's a lot of concentrate. So is it profitable for the farmers at this level?
Yeah, of course they optimize the diets based on the economics, but maybe now in recent years the concentrates the price has increased, but it has actually, particularly the cereal grains for feeds, they have been quite cheap in Finland. So of course it's been optimized based on economics when the rations are planned. But there was actually some 10 years back, we were actually struggling in ration formulation in how to maximize the cereal grains in the diet. And luckily that doesn't happen anymore. So there were even problems with rumen acidosis because of that and so on. But maybe now it's time for Kaisa to take over.
Okay, now we start. I got the microphone opened. Okay, can you see my slide?
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. So my name is Kaisa Kuoppala and I'm a research scientist in Luke, Finland. And I have been working here in this project as a farm facilitator. And I'm going to tell about the results of NDA meetings and the online survey from Finland part. So let's go on. So in our project, we have 15 countries, 18 organizations and 120 pilot farms, from which we have in Finland 7. And here are the steps of our projects. First step was to build the networks, NDAs, National Dairy AGIS. AGIS means Agricultural Knowledge and Innovation System. Then we collected the needs. Then we collected solutions, have NDA meetings, and then the needs and solutions were matched together. And the ultimate goal of this work is to make these ready to use best practices, in fact, sheets or videos and that kind of things, where the farmers can get the information. So, sorry, I am going to tell you about the Finnish results from that survey and NDF meetings. And through all this, our project, we have used these knowledge areas, which are three knowledge areas: technical efficiency, environmental things, economical efficiency, and there are in technical efficiency there belongs all dairy cattle management things, housing, genetics, feeding systems, and so on, animal nutrition and grassland, and animal health and animal welfare are in the same area than ecological and environmental issues, and also the society systems, how to build society-friendly system is also in that area. And in that last part area belongs financial issues and business management, and also the labor conditions, which include all the welfare of farmers and work-life balance and so on. Okay, first survey. Our Italian colleagues built this survey, which was sent to all our stakeholders and NDAs and farmers. And in the list, there were selected 43 specific needs, and the respondents have been asked to rate from 0 to 5 each of them, and thinking about of the potential to improve resilience in farm. And for the results, the sum of answers, which had the score 4 or 5. 5 was the very, very interested, the best. They were calculated as a sum, and the percentage of the total answers is the final score with which I'm going to show you. There were over 500 answers together, and from Finland we got 34 answers to this survey. In this survey, we had all the results by those knowledge areas. And when we think about the technical issues, the innovative testing and analysis and detectors and devices for to detect disease or pathologies, they were the most important, and after them comes innovative feeding systems for cows and calves. And also in the top 5 there is innovative silage production and management techniques. And in this environmental and animal welfare area, the welfare of cows and welfare of calves and improving that was the main interest. And also animal friendly housing was high in the list. But after them there was a efficiency of nitrogen use. And here comes also the effective communication and transparency to the general public. So that is in the top 5 list in our answers to the survey. Economical efficiency and social resilience. The very funny situation that almost everything get the same percentage, and it comes from that we have 34 answers and same amount so were chosen the 4 or 5. And you can see that there's a work-life balance here and salary and returns. And these are economical and these social issues. But when you look this list of top 10 or top 11 is here in online survey results from Finland. So the welfare of animals is the top. Then the testing and detectors. And then comes this all the work-life balance, nitrogen use and economic things. And then we look the NDA results, challenges, needs and solutions. These results were collected from every country, and our team in Finland merged all the data, and it was calculated also total results, but these which I am showing, it's only Finnish. We were discussing in our NDA about these things: climate change, consumers' negative attitude, then global stability, conflicts, crises, and high prices. And why we in our NDA were so worried about the global stability and war and crisis? It comes from that our NDA meeting was held 1 month after Russia's attack to Ukraine. So in that point of view, it's very natural that these things concerning people quite much. And the high prices and the low availability of inputs, they are at least partly outcome of that attack and conflict. And then to needs, knowledge needs, knowledge, they are, farmers need knowledge to how to deal with these things: contagious diseases, extreme weather events, and one important issue which came up in our NDA meeting was that cyber safety. When you think about how much data is produced every day in a modern dairy barn, and you think about milking robot and all the sensors and devices. So it's very important to ask who has access to this huge amount of data. What happens if somebody hacks the animal care system, or who owns the data? Is it the companies who owns the data, or is it the farmer? And the well-being of farmers was emphasized very heavily in the NDA meeting. When you think about economy and work-life balance and all the relationships in farm, social, society relationships, and also inside the family, they are very important. And then to the solutions. Solutions are generally the more practical management issues which are related to dairy cow care, nutrition, and feed production. And this is kind of logical because they are actions that can be controlled at farm level and must be controlled. So also peer support between farmers was emphasized. And there's also biosecurity and pest control in the solutions which we were discussing. Now, this figure, which looks like a patchwork, it's the figure where the situation of needs and resources to solve them can be seen in whole project, whole partners. Every partner has here 2 columns. There you could see Finnish, and brown ones are needs. Green color symbolize resources available in the country, and there are all those knowledge areas. They are same as in all as before. So what the dark brown color means that there is high need. There's a high level of importance in that need in that area, knowledge area. And dark green means that there's lots of resources available. And you can see by one side that there is more resources available in those 3-4 first knowledge areas. And Finnish needs are in areas of ecological issues in society and public opinion. And resources which are available, they are in dairy cattle management, animal nutrition and health. And to be short and have a conclusion here, it was an interesting thing that welfare of animals was very important when you look at the results of online survey, but the welfare of farmers became important in the NDA meetings. Climate change and environmental issues are twofold. There is a pressure from society, like regulations for nutrient leaching, and there's also individual farmer and farm is dependent on the local weather and biotic resources. And practical management issues related to cow care, nutrition and feed productions. And they were emphasized in solutions. And that was my last slide. So thank you. Please ask questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Abele, you have a question. Abele?
Sorry, I need to unlock my Kaisa, that first conclusion of yours is about animal welfare. Was extremely high ranked, I saw.
Yeah.
And then in the NDAs, it was more the farmers' welfare. If animal welfare was so high ranked by the experts, excluding cow-calf contact, could you explain what kind of elements play a role? What can it be? What is the picture of that? And my next question is, sometimes looking at the data, I have the impression that the outcome is sometimes a little bit influenced by the facilitators. What's your opinion about that?
Yes, I was thinking that the welfare things, human or animal, it depends on first of all, it was in a survey which we had animal welfare was so high, and in NDA the human farmers, but there was different persons in the NDA meeting and who were answering to the survey, and there was not so many farmers in the responders of the survey, and the composition of the persons was and the audience was different. I think that is the one reason. And of course, the facilitator may have affected to the point, but we also had in our NDA meeting very active farmers who were discussing together with these welfare of farmer things. So it was, I think, as far as I remember, it came up with the audience that.
But guys, the expert ranked it so extremely high, and it was really high,
Yeah.
as a problem area. Could you name what's behind that? Which elements? Is it, yeah, you don't have tie stalls anymore? Is it that the cows sometimes walk in the snow? What is it? Could you, which elements? Cow-calf contact, I understand. That's a wider concept, but what CD, or is it a lot of illness in your country? What do experts see as behind it? You have a reason.
If I may step in a little bit, so I think the pressure that we get from the society, I don't think that the people really even know exactly how the cows are treated and so on, but it can even be a bigger concept if we have the right to keep animals and exploit them, even if you don't know the details. And then the NDA may respond to that. Of course, then we, from within the industry, what we can do, we can try and improve details around the cows. But and that's what we are doing. But if the on the other side, then the idea is that, I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, even if they would be treated like as well as whatever, it doesn't help if you have this attitude that we are not supposed to exploit the animals.
Okay, thank you. That perhaps tells a bit more. Yeah.
Any other questions? Abele?
No. Mistake.
Okay. Well, if there is no more questions, then thanks a lot, you two. It was very interesting to have some impressions from Finland. And I would say that we close the webinar now. And yeah, if there are any questions, you can always contact Kaisa or Maketa. They will answer you some more questions if needed. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.